Hello everybody. Today I wanted to talk about Shadow of Mordor. I've completed this game 100% twice. The first time that I 100%ed this game, I played it on the Xbox 360 in about 2016. It was a Christmas gift to me, and I really enjoyed this game, got all the achievements, and had a great time. The second time I played this game, I played it on the Xbox One in 2026, January, right? And it was a really fun time. I actually bought this game unknowingly, and so what I mean by that is I bought a big old package of Shadow of War with all of the DLC, and it only cost me like $8. But one thing that I didn't know is that that package of all of the Shadow of War content, it came with a copy of the Shadow of Mordor Game of the Year edition. And so I wasn't aware, and I saw this game sitting in my library, and I was like, what? What is this? And I checked it out, and I hadn't played the game in years. I had forgotten about the story, so I was like, let me refresh my memory, let me play this game again. And it was a really good time. Would recommend it. Do I recommend buying this game? I would overall recommend that if you haven't played this game already, I would 100% recommend that you try it out at the very least. Because you can get this game for fairly cheap when it's on sale. I would recommend that you do it the way that I did it, where you just get all of the Shadow of War DLC with the Game of the Year edition of this game. Because I got it for like $8, and that's an excellent deal for both of these games. Is the game worth 100%ing? So again, I 100%ed this game twice. The first time I did it, it was just the base game, but I got all the achievements, and I really enjoyed it. The second time, I did the same thing, got all the achievements, but I got it for the base game and with all of the DLC, and it was still an excellent time. I would recommend playing it. As far as completing it, there's really only one achievement for the most part that's going to cause problems for some people. And I would really recommend that if you're going to go after this achievement, that you do it as your last one. Because the more runes or the more skills that you have, the more leveled up that your character is, basically, you're gonna need all of the things that you've acquired in this game for that trial. So the hardest achievement to get in this game is called The Hunch is My Mistress. And what you have to do is you have to kill like all of the captains and all of the orcs. You have to destroy basically an army, right? And you have to do it within 40 minutes, and it's a tough thing to do. And you have to do it in a specific way using, usually people use Graugs. That's what I did too. I would recommend that you go for that achievement last. It's pretty tough. It took me like 5 or 6 tries to do it. So it took me like 5 hours or 6 hours to do it, and it was fun. It was fun, but it was rough. It was challenging. So just keep that in mind. A fun game to play. Would only recommend completing it if you absolutely love this game and you're determined to finish that final challenge. Okay, so the quality of this game. Okay, so I really only have like, for the most part, one problem with this game. It is going to feel pretty repetitive. The repetitiveness of this game is going to matter to people individually a bit differently depending on how much you enjoy the base of this game. How much you enjoy fighting orcs and overcoming them and defeating them. That's really what's going to determine whether you're okay with the repetitiveness or not. In the base game, there's some side quests. There's 10 side quests per weapon. So you have 10 for the sword, 10 for the dagger, and 10 for the bow to upgrade it, right? And those side quests are not too bad. They're fairly repetitive, but it's doable. The only quests that I kind of have a problem with to some degree are the outcast missions. So in this game, the outcasts are basically the slaves, the men who get captured by orcs, and they're turned into slaves, and you have to free them. You have to set them free from the orcs. And there's more than 10. I think there might be like 20, maybe 24. I think there are 24. There's like 24 missions of saving the slaves from the orcs. And my problem with those quests is that they're pretty repetitive. You don't really get too much that's worth your time for them, except for like upgrade points, basically. And I kind of wish that those levels were more engaging, or that you got something more worth your time for doing them. So that's kind of my biggest problem with this game. It's not a huge problem, but it is going to feel a bit grindy and a bit repetitive. Now, the best part of this game, what really sets it apart from other games, is the Nemesis system. Now, if you've heard of this game, you've heard of the Nemesis system. Basically what it is that the game has this, like, I guess it's like an AI program sort of, right? It keeps track of like how you're playing the game, how you're interacting with the orcs, how are you killing the orcs, how are you fighting them, and it keeps track of it, and the game will sort of adapt to your play style, and it'll sort of adapt to what you're doing story-wise and gameplay-wise. So what I mean is, like, on a very basic level, let's say you run into an orc, a captain, right? And you're fighting him. And in the middle of your fight, maybe he kills you. Maybe you lose against him, right? And he's like, oh, I've destroyed the grave walk. I've destroyed you. And now I'm going to get promoted, right? He says something like that, right? And now he gets stronger, and when he interacts with you the next time, he's gonna be like, Grave Walker, I destroyed you once, and I will destroy you again. So it's this thing where like the enemies keep track of what you've done to them and how you've interacted with them, and they'll adapt to you, right? It makes the story more compelling. It makes the game more compelling. A different example, let's say you're fighting an orc and you burn them up with fire, or maybe you mauled them with a Caragor, right? And the orc freaks out. He's like, "Oh no, I don't want to die today. I'm not ready." And then he runs away and he escapes from you, right? And then you run into him later on in the game, maybe, right? Because he retreated and he survived, and he's like, "Grave Walker, last time you burned me and you mauled me, but this time I'm stronger and I'll have my revenge." That's kind of the gist of the Nemesis system. The orcs will remember how you fought them, what you did. They adapt and they come back for their revenge, or they, all that fun stuff. So it makes the game more enjoyable. And that's really the greatest strength of this game, and it's worth playing for that reason, in my opinion. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the writing of this game. The writing in this game, it's okay. It's not bad at all. I'm probably going to get into some spoilers, so just keep that in mind. I've already given the game my recommendation, right? But I want to talk about some specific things. So if you haven't played the game, consider playing the game, then coming back. If you have played the game, let me talk about some of the story stuff, right? The strength of this game's writing really falls upon the fact that J.R.R. Tolkien made some incredible books. He made The Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Silmarillion, and all these other stories, right? He created this amazing setting, Middle Earth, right? And so, Warner Brothers, Monolith, they have this huge advantage in the fact that they have access to such a deeply crafted, excellent world. They have this world with deep lore and a lot of beasts and plants and history and races when it comes to the orcs and the dwarves and the elves and the men, and there's a lot that to be delved in when it comes to Middle Earth. So really the strength of this writing very much relies on Tolkien's excellent work on his books. So that means if you're a Tolkien fan and you like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and the Silmarillion, you're probably really going to enjoy this game because it follows Celebrimbor. And Celebrimbor is this elf a legendary elf basically, right? And he crafted the Rings of Power, the same ones that Sauron had dominated with the One Ring. Now, this game is not specifically tied to the books. It's not specifically tied to the movies. And what I mean is that it's not 100% faithful to the books or to the movies. It's kind of like this alternate universe, like this alternate timeline kind of. It's basically a what-if story. What if Celebrimbor turned against Sauron, stole the One Ring, tried to overcome Sauron with his own ring, with the One Ring, right? And fails and tries to get his revenge on him. That's essentially what the story is. And it's a pretty interesting and good revenge story, I would say, overall. That does also kind of mean... So, okay, if you don't know anything about Tolkien and Middle Earth, it's not quite correct to say that you won't enjoy this game, but you're probably going to be a little bit lost as to who is who and what is what. Now, the game keeps it pretty simple and straightforward. You're not going to miss out on too much, but you will appreciate the game much more if you have like that background knowledge of Tolkien's world, right? So just keep that in mind. There's a very obvious theme of revenge in this game. And really, you see this concept of revenge with 3 characters, arguably 4, but really with 3 characters. And that's going to be Talion, Celebrimbor, and Torvin. So Talion is a ranger. He's a man of Gondor, right? He fights for Gondor and he loves his people. But really who he loves is his wife and his child, his son. One day, Gondor is overrun by orcs. The right-hand man to Sauron, his name is the Black Hand. He's kind of like this witch man person, right? And he goes into Gondor, wherever it is, right? And he fights Talion. He kills Talion's son. He kills Talion's wife. And then after he does that in cold blood right in front of Talion, he kills Talion himself. One thing that I almost forgot to mention is that Talion is training his son to be a man of Gondor, a soldier. And his son is involved in the battle against the Black Hand and the orcs. And in that battle, he falls and his sword breaks. So Talion takes that broken sword and he turns it into a dagger. He uses it as a dagger and he gives it a new elvish name. And that new name for the dagger means vengeance. So throughout the whole game, Talion carries this dagger into battle, and it's a constant reminder of his son's death and his mission for vengeance. At first, it's suggested that the Black Hand put a curse on Talion, and that Talion is unable to die. He is undead because of that curse, and that curse can only be lifted if the Black Hand is killed. So Talion's mission in life is to kill the Black Hand, so he can get vengeance for he can avenge his wife and his child, but also that he can return to his wife and child in the afterlife. That's Talion's motivation for revenge. Celebrimbor has a similar story of revenge, but his is slightly different. So Celebrimbor is this legendary elf craftsman. He forges the rings of power, and Sauron is a deceptive being. He deceives the elves. He gives them gifts. He basically tells them that he has their best interests in mind. But what the elves don't know is that Sauron is crafting the One Ring, and with this One Ring, he's going to dominate all of the men and the dwarves and the elves. Celebrimbor forges the Rings of Power, not knowing that. In this game, Sauron asks Celebrimbor to help him forge the One Ring, and when Celebrimbor does that, he steals the One Ring for himself, and he plans to use that ring against Sauron himself. He wants to use Sauron's power against him. The plan fails. The One Ring's true master will always be Sauron, because the One Ring is filled with the malice of Sauron. You can't use evil to defeat evil, because even if evil did defeat evil, that just means that evil prevails. Celebrimbor falls to Sauron, and Sauron, in his anger against Celebrimbor for fighting him, he kills Celebrimbor's wife and his child right in front of him. Then he kills Celebrimbor. In this story, Celebrimbor's soul, to some degree, is tied to the One Ring. So Celebrimbor can't die. He's undead. He's a wraith, and he's going to stay that way until the One Ring is unmade. And so Celebrimbor's goal, as far as I can tell, is that he wants to destroy Sauron. And maybe he wants to destroy the One Ring. I haven't finished the series yet, so I don't actually know what the whole end thing is, but Celebrimbor's goal is revenge against Sauron for killing his family and for killing him. This theme of vengeance, of revenge, it's compelling for the game, and it gives you a reason, it gives the player a reason to want to fight against Sauron and want to fight all these orcs and forge an orc army to defeat Sauron, right? But it's interesting because, like, my idea of, like, an ideal story is, like, you have a man like Aragorn, right? A hero, a king, a man who's like, I'm going to destroy this evil in the world. I'm going to destroy Sauron for the good of man and for the good of Middle-earth, right? And Talion does kind of have that, but I kind of get the impression with Celebrimbor and Talion, especially in Shadow of Mordor in this game, that Talion and Celebrimbor are not necessarily fighting Sauron for benevolent reasons. They're really fighting Sauron for personal reasons, out of anger and anguish and wrath, right? They have all this pent-up hatred and anger towards Sauron. And rightfully so, right? Because they had their family destroyed, right? And they want to take this anger and channel it and destroy Sauron. They don't want to destroy Sauron to make the world a better place. They want to destroy Sauron because Sauron hurt them and they're going to hurt him back. So I always kind of got the sense of, like, I don't necessarily feel like Talion and Celebrimbor are these benevolent beings who are doing this for the good of Middle-earth. To some degree, they kind of are, but that's not their primary goal. Their primary goals, and this is perfectly fine because it's more human this way, right? Talion's primary goal is to be reunited with his family. It's not to save the world, right? At least in this game. Celebrimbor, his goal is to avenge his family, not necessarily to save Middle-earth, as far as I can tell, right? That's kind of how it feels in this game. That's kind of the sense that I get with, like, the voice acting and how these characters say things. And it's interesting because it's different. I guess, like, the point I'm trying to get at is that Talion and Celebrimbor's motivations really do seem to be vengeance, more so than, like, justice or protecting the weak. Now, in Shadow of War, I do like... Hopefully these are not huge spoilers for Shadow of War, right? I haven't really gotten too far in the game. I'm barely in Act 1, so I haven't even finished the game, but... One thing I appreciate a little bit more about Shadow of War, as far as I've seen in Act 1, you do see a bit more of Talion's humanity and where he wants to fight for justice and protecting the weak and helping people, right, to not be destroyed by this evil force. So I do like Shadow of War for that reason, at least so far. But in Shadow of Mordor, you're definitely going to get the sense of, like, Talion and Celebrimbor are just angry and wrathful men, and they have so much pent-up anger, and they just want to destroy Sauron. That's kind of the point that I'm trying to get at. Now again, still sticking with the theme of revenge, you also have a dwarf. I do like this character a lot. His name is Torvin. The biggest reason I like Torvin, he does have, like, a sense of humor that I enjoy. He also has a Scottish accent, and for me, You know, it's just the way I am. I really like the How to Train Your Dragon series, and I really like DuckTales, specifically Scrooge McDuck and Glomgold. I've come to enjoy the Scottish accent. I just find it to be fun and enjoyable to hear. So that's one reason why I like Torvin. But I also like him because he has a good sense of humor. He has a good attitude, I would say, overall in this game. And he falls under this theme of revenge because Torvin's story is that he's a dwarf, he's a hunter, and he used to hunt in the wilds, you know, for like Karagors and Graugs and I'm sure other monsters, right? And he used to hunt very often with his brother. Now, one day there was this legendary, this rare white Graug, a wretched Graug, I believe, right? And he ends up killing Torvin's brother. And Torvin is also just filled with agony and anguish over his brother's death. And his motivation, his sole motivation, is to go and slay this Graug once and for all, this white Graug. It's kind of interesting because it's a little bit similar to Moby Dick in a sense because you have like this white creature, you know, for Captain Ahab, you have the white whale and he's going after the white whale because it tore his leg off, right? So he wants revenge because this whale has caused him anguish and he can't allow this whale to escape. For Torvin, his brother has been slain by this Graug, this white Graug. I would say this unholy force of nature, right? And he just wants to slay it so that he can avenge his brother, right? And of course, in the game, Talion helps him to accomplish that, and the two become friends over that. One other character that I really enjoy this game, I'm not entirely sure that he's tied to the theme of revenge, but there's this orc, and his name is Ratbag. And Ratbag is an enjoyable character because he's very much the comic relief. In this world that's very like grim and violent and bloody, it's nice to have Ratbag because he's this comic relief of like he's a small orc, not very powerful at all, he's pretty weak, but he is pretty clever, he's pretty smart, and really his power comes from his words, from politics, so to speak, right? Ratbag understands orc society, he understands how orcs are, he manipulates situations so that they work in his favor. And I guess overall, Ratbag isn't necessarily tied to revenge, but because he's part of Orc Culture, Orc Society, the Orcs are a race in this game that they will kill each other because they want power. So basically how it works, the Orcs, they want to be powerful warriors. So the more powerful warrior that you are, the more status that you have. So you're either a grunt, or you're a captain, or you're a war chief. And a war chief, that's really the position that you want as an orc because that comes with a lot of power. But at the same time, the way that Orc Society works, if you're a grunt and you kill an orc captain, now you can be promoted to being a captain because you've proved that you're stronger than that captain, that you're a better warrior. And if you're a captain and you kill a war chief, then you've proved that you're stronger than that war chief and you take away his position, right? And that hierarchy, that society, that culture of power, it's malicious and it's cruel and it's evil and it kind of plays off of betrayal and backstabbing each other, right? And obviously, it's not very good for the orcs at all because the war chiefs, even though they're the most powerful warriors or they're the highest status warriors in orc culture, they're never safe and they don't like to be out in public. They kind of hide and keep to themselves for the most part because if they're out and about, any orc grunts or all of the orc grunts could just show up and stab him in the back and kill him and take his spot. And so there's like a journal entry in this game where it says that the orc war chiefs, they're always hiding away. And the only way that you can fight a war chief in this game is if you cause enough commotion, you cause enough of a disruption, you kill too many orcs, or if you cause chaos in a stronghold, an orc stronghold, that gets the war chief's attention. And now that war chief has to fight you to prove that he's worthy of being a war chief. If he doesn't fight you, then he has no power. And if he has no power, why is he war chief, right? So it's interesting. And Ratbag, I really do like him. He's really funny. And again, he's very weak. Because I think when he starts in the game, he's level 4. And the cap in this game is level 20. So he starts off as a grunt, is level 4. And then you help him to get promoted. And he gets to level 5 as a captain. Then he becomes a war chief. And he levels up to level 6. And level 6 as a war chief is a pathetic power level. So he's a very weak soldier. He's a very weak warrior, but he is cunning and clever, right? And as far as creative writing, Ratbag is really meant to be a precursor to how domination works in this game, because this game is broken up into 2 parts. In the first part of the game, all you really know how to do is kill the orcs and the warriors, right? You kill the orcs, you're just destroying all of the grunts, you destroy the captains, and you destroy the war chiefs. And after you've done that, Ratbag is the last war chief surviving. He willingly puts himself under your will. He willingly fights for you, right? But of course, he has no real power. and so he gets obliterated by the Black Hand or the tower really easily, right? In the second half of this game, you know, the orcs, they're not gonna join you willingly like Ratbag is, right? So you have to dominate them, you have to force your will upon them. And when you force your will upon the orcs, you're able to build this orc army. And that's really when the game starts to get more fun, right? Because you're building this army and you're gonna use it to fight against Sauron. You're taking Sauron's power and you're turning it against him. And it's really enjoyable, it's really interesting. So just to wrap this up, overall I would recommend this game. I think it's an excellent game overall. I haven't finished Shadow of War. I've only played the first act of Shadow of War, but I will say that Shadow of Mordor is a well-crafted game. It's designed to be its own thing, right? It's not super grindy. It has more respect for your time, and it's a compelling game for the most part. I would recommend it. Just to talk about Shadow of War briefly, the biggest problem that Shadow of War has, from the research that I've done, from what I've seen, is that the game, when it first launched, it really depended on a loot box system where the game kind of encourages players or wanted players to spend money on loot boxes. And because they lean so heavily on that system, the game was designed to be grindy if you were going to do it without spending money on it. So the only reason I really bring that up is just to say that this game does not have that problem. This game does not have a problem where there's loot boxes or anything like that. It's a game crafted to be beaten by your skill and your skill alone. And this game really is a power fantasy. Like if you're gonna feel overpowered because you're gonna be slaying orcs left and right, you're gonna feel pretty powerful in this game. And it's pretty fun for that reason. It's kind of similar-ish to the Dynasty Warriors games where you're just like this powerful hero and you're just slaying through all of these grunts. It's kind of a little bit like that. Of course, the combat is more similar to the Batman Arkham series, right? So it's not just a hack and slash. There is some strategy and some timing and some skill involved in it. But I'm just saying, like, you're gonna feel like a powerful hero as you're playing this game. It's pretty fun. Would recommend. So overall, that's what I have to say about this game. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I did a good job. Hope I didn't ramble too much. Would appreciate if you either subscribe or like the video or comment. Whatever you do to interact with this video. It helps the algorithm, helps me out, supports my work. Again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you being here. I hope you have an excellent day, and I'll see you all later.